Well, surprise, surprise, the Fed decided to do nothing, no interest rate hike, no rate cut, and the ADP jobs numbers came out recently, 192,000 jobs, which they're saying are still pretty strong, and we're waiting on the government's official numbers for the jobs, which always gets revised down, by the way, and they're anticipating that's going to be around 240,000. So here's the funny thing, guys. Even though this economy still looks strong on paper, especially with these jobs and low unemployment claims so far, one thing that a lot of people are saying is that nobody can find a good job right now. So having a job is not the same as having a good job. I think we can all agree with that, especially if you have to work multiple jobs in order to support your family or your lifestyle. In fact, there was a story about people that have applied to dozens or even hundreds of jobs in some cases only to get 1 or 2 callbacks. They say that no one's hiring and they've never seen it this bad when they're out job hunting. I've heard a lot of people say this in the comments section of my video as well, that it's not that people are lazy and they don't want to work, it's that they can't actually find a good job, which may actually be valid. Now the crazy thing is this: normally if you're applying for hundreds of jobs and you're not getting any callbacks, that would imply that we are in a massive recession. But on the surface, all these numbers are saying that we're not in a recession. They're saying that unemployment is still near record lows and that the jobs numbers that are being gained each month are still strong. So what in fact may be happening beneath the surface to explain some of this is that we are starting to experience a white-collar recession, meaning that it's very hard to get a good paying job where you can just work one job and support your entire family versus getting a couple different blue-collar jobs in order to make the same level of income. In fact, Vanguard did a recent study of their 401k contributions in order to determine the national hiring rate broken down by income level. And the numbers show that there's a 2-tier job market right now, one divided between a blue-collar boom and a white-collar recession. And that's bad news, right? Because everybody wants to get that white-collar job, assuming you're qualified for it and can do the job. But really, it's that big salary that people are looking for. And it's not even because you want it, it's because you need it nowadays. Now, according to Vanguard's study, they found that the lowest income earners who make less than $55,000 a year, that the hiring rate has still held up well at 1.5%, and it's actually above pre-pandemic levels. But among those who make more than $96,000 a year, it's bad. For this income category, that hiring has slowed to a 0.5% rate, which is less than half the peak that it reached in the middle of 2022. And they say this is the worst figure that they've seen since 2014, excluding a little blip during the pandemic, which obviously that was, extenuating circumstances that you really can't count as normal. So basically, if you're looking for a 6-figure salary, it's a pretty bad time to be looking for a job. And you kind of need to have a 6-figure salary these days in order to get by. At least you need to have a 6-figure household income in order to have any shot at owning the American dream, buying a house, being able to save for retirement, and all of that stuff. But we actually know for a fact that the median household income throughout the country is more like $75K a year. It falls well short of that 6-figure salary that people are looking for. So it's interesting because you get these jobs figures, right? And they say on the surface it looks like the economy is doing good with those numbers. But if people can't find a job that actually is good enough to support a reasonable lifestyle, then that doesn't support a good economy, because those people are constantly going to be working just to pay their bills, which means they're also not going to have a lot of money left over for anything discretionary like vacations, going out to eat, or anything else, any other extracurricular spending. And one quote that Mark Zuckerberg said recently to justify all the layoffs over at Meta, he says that managers managing managers, managing managers, managing managers, managing the people who are doing the work is the reason they're getting rid of people. So they're saying they just have way too much middle management. Kind of reminds me of that movie Office Space. So what exactly would you say you do here? Here's the other thing that you have to consider. If less companies are willing to hire for good, well-paying positions right now, it could be a forewarning that they're anticipating tough times ahead. That's the other thing people need to understand. Like, these companies are seeing their profits shrink right now in many cases. They're seeing their productivity go down, and they're seeing the consumers and their customers able to spend less money. So from a corporate point of view, why do you want to hire people and give them six-figure salaries right now when you don't even know if you're going to be able to turn a profit next quarter? It's kind of like they're thinking right now, because it saves them money, guys, versus hiring people who make less money. So it makes sense that there's a lot of blue collar, lower wage jobs available right now and hardly any higher paying jobs, because those are the only jobs that people are willing to pay you for right now. And so these companies' budgets are contracting right now, and this is the easiest way to cut people out, is just stop hiring the high income earners. That's simple. And they also say, well, maybe it's hard to get a job for these people because a lot of these people actually don't need a job right now. They already have a high paying job, and yeah, they might be looking for a different job because they hate the one that they're in, but they don't really need that new job. They just want that new job. So I guess that's possible. But that doesn't seem to be reflected in the sentiment that I've heard from you guys out there. Maybe this is just people adjusting. You know, we had all this quitting going on when employees had all this leverage, when there were, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of job openings across the country, because after all the layoffs from the pandemic, companies trying to recover people, recover staff, gave employees a lot of leverage. But now that all that's largely over with, people kind of got used to how easy it was to get a job, and now they're kind of disappointed and upset that it's not so easy anymore. That's another theory. So they say this is the reason why we feel like we're in a recession, or we have a vibe session going on right now, when the data and the numbers don't actually support that. So I don't know, you guys let me know if you are in this situation. You know, every single week I talk about different companies that have been performing layoffs, and a lot of them are the high paid ones. You know, Tesla was the biggest layoff we've seen in the past 3 years amongst all these big companies, guys, and they laid off like 14,000 workers, and I'm sure all of those people make six-figure salaries or more. And what all this does is it gives people the feeling that things are moving in the wrong direction. Well, I think most people that watch my videos know that it's not a feeling, it's the reality, and that's why you're feeling it, because it's really happening. They say that the unemployment rate right now is actually rising the fastest for people with the highest levels of education, people that have master's degrees and doctorates and all of that, because they want to command the highest level of salary. So harder to find a job. And here's the other thing, guys, like the layoffs have already started. Really, last year is when you've seen the big uptick in layoffs. We've already seen a tremendous amount of layoffs this year, and I anticipate that problem is just going to continue to worsen throughout the rest of this year and going into next year. And the hiring is going to be continuing to be scaled back, because that's what we've heard time and time again from companies. They're telling you they're going to do this, so this should not come as a big surprise. Here we have a brand new house for sale, and it's been listed for sale since the beginning of the year and no takers until now. It just went pending about a couple weeks ago, and this was an empty lot in 2021 that was purchased for $30,000. They built the house here and listed it for sale brand new. So clearly you could build your own house if you really wanted to for probably less money than this, if you're willing to go through the headaches. But once again, guys, keep an eye on the property tax bill for these brand new houses. It's only $843, but once you buy this house, it's probably going to be about $5,000 a year around here. And we have all types of data and all types of metrics to look at that the economy is not really as strong as we're being told right now. Well, here's another one. The personal savings rate continues to fall, guys. Like, this is something that is going to be dwindled down to nothing if it keeps going like this, which means people are not saving any of the money that they're earning anymore. And even right now, it's at an abysmal level. In fact, the savings rate just fell from 3.5% to 3.2%, which is the lowest that we saw since November of 2022. And over the last year, savings rates fell from 5.2 to 3.2%. So a 2% decrease in just 1 year. That's because inflation is really starting to rock people's budgets. Now everyone's feeling the full effect of this, and there's no escaping it now. And this is all happening and coinciding with the fact that the credit card debt continues to explode. You know, every single month we're hitting new record highs with credit card debt. And at the same time, spending is now outpacing income growth because spending rose 0.8% month over month, while income growth was only 0.5% growth month over month, guys. So they want to tell you that, oh no, don't worry, the wages are keeping up, and that's why, you know, the economy is still strong. In fact, I saw another story about this today when I was researching this video, that's one of the main reasons things are still going so well right now, is because people actually are making the money that they need to support this lifestyle. Well, even if the wage growth is matched or even slightly higher than what the current rate of inflation is, it doesn't matter. You know why? Two reasons. One, that's probably pre-tax income they're talking about, pre-tax wage growth. So if your wages went up 5%, it doesn't matter because you don't get to keep that full 5%. The government takes a big chunk of that, right? So your raise is actually lower than that. Simultaneously, the second reason why it doesn't matter is because the rate of inflation that we're being told of this whole 3.5% nonsense is not true, okay? Especially when you look at certain categories that are exploding that people need to pay for, like car insurance, homeowners insurance, housing costs, food and energy prices. Okay, those are the things that people need to spend the most money on, and coincidentally, the inflation is the highest in those categories. So they can say all they want that the wage growth is going up and this is helping the economy, but really it isn't, guys. It's just people barely trying to stay above water, you know, it's barely trying to survive with those meager wage increases. And the crazy thing is this, when the Fed sees these stronger than they want to see reports on wage growth, you know what that makes them do is it makes them keep the interest rates higher for longer, which I don't have a problem with personally. I think they should be raising rates right now, but they actively look at this and say, well, if you're making more money, then that means our inflation projections are probably going to say that inflation will be, you know, more of a problem more into the future. So we're not going to drop rates anytime soon, which makes it so that everything you buy is more expensive, at least if you're financing it anyhow. And here's another anecdote that shows you things are not going so well right now. Student loan debt now has forced over 70% of borrowers to delay major life events because of the cost, because not everybody's a freeloader and wants to get their student loan debt forgiven. They're paying it back because they agreed to take on the debt, and they're doing the right thing and they're paying their loan. Also, if you don't pay, then you're not going to be eligible for any forgiveness. So even if that's not your intention, you have to pay no matter what. This is obviously a big deal because people are postponing all sorts of major purchases and life decisions, like buying a home. 29% said they're not doing that because of the debt. 28% said they're not buying a car because of it. A lot of them say the debt has delayed them from moving out of their parents' house and having children. So that's also a problem. And here's the craziest thing. They talked to college students that were previously enrolled who stopped before completing a degree. So they kind of stopped halfway through getting their degree. And the number one reason why they say they stopped, 35% of them said they haven't re-enrolled due to their student loans. They're starting to realize how much debt they're racking up and how much the payment is going to be, and understanding that they're not going to be able to afford this, or maybe that they don't want to take on that level of debt moving forward, but they're already stuck with a chunk of it because they decided to get into the college industrial complex. So the borrowers who are delaying their life decisions are typically between the age of 26 and 35, and they say it's more relevant to people in this age group because they're older and their debt loads are getting higher than the younger borrowers. So people who just enrolled in college don't realize how screwed they are yet, but they will find out the hard way down the road, just like these people apparently. The worst part about this, guys, is that, you know, it even impacts people that don't even owe that much money. In fact, this survey found out that 63% of borrowers with less than $10,000 of student loan debt have also delayed a life event. So $10,000 in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of debt, but it is when you're not working yet and you don't even have a job, or maybe you are working and the job you're working is you're seeing your wages and you're seeing how much this payment's going to be, and like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay this off at this current rate. So you essentially have to take a gamble as a student, thinking that, well, when I do graduate with even a lot more debt than this 10 grand, that I'm going to be able to make a good enough salary to not only pay my bills and live a good life, but also pay off this loan. And it's just a chance more and more young people are less willing to take right now, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't be taking it on either. And you know, it's funny because obviously the Biden administration is pretty famous now for implementing all these different student loan forgiveness programs. In fact, the most recent one is that they're trying to cancel an estimated $150 billion worth of student loan debt, which would benefit another 30 million student loan borrowers out there. So obviously they're trying to buy votes, but without getting political on this, at the same token, there's also a proposal right now to do a 50% capital gains tax, guys. So, you know, let's tax people for selling an asset, you know, 50% capital gains on whatever it is that you sell, and we're going to give that money to students who don't want to pay their loans back. I mean, that's just not fair, guys. You're robbing somebody else to pay for someone else's debts. It's not right, you know? That's no different, as far as I'm concerned, as me being in credit card debt and going to a jewelry store and robbing the jewelry store so I can pay off my credit card debt. How is it different? Please explain, because I don't think it is. I don't see any difference in this. So if this ends up going through, this would be the highest increase in capital gains taxes that we've seen in about 100 years in this country. And it's funny that they're saying they want to do this, because all it's really going to do, even if this does pass, is it's going to delay people even more or postpone indefinitely from selling big assets. People that, you know, have these houses that are going to have to pay a big capital gains tax. Like, there's already so many barriers right now for people to sell a house, for example, because that's the number one thing that comes to my mind, obviously, is real estate with this. And one of the biggest reasons people don't sell right now is, number one, they don't want to pay the capital gains taxes over this massive appreciation that they've seen, and also they're afraid that they can't even afford to move because the houses and the interest rates combined today are too unaffordable, even if they do sell. So this would just be yet another roadblock and prevent more people from selling their homes. And if this does go through, in some states it would be very bad. Like in California, your effective tax rate would be 59%. In New Jersey, it'd be 55%. Oregon, it would be 54.5% because you're throwing in the state's capital gains taxes as well. So it's just out of this world what they're trying to do right now with this, and then they turn around and give it to people that don't want to pay their bills. Now, when it comes to homeowners insurance, guys, I've gone over so many different things with this, but even rich people don't want to pay their homeowners insurance now. In fact, there was a story out recently of Susie Orman, and she says that she canceled her homeowners insurance after she got a $28,000 a year quote for a 2,100 square foot condo, okay? And of course it's in Florida here. It's an oceanfront condo, and she's another one that's saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go bare. I'm going without it. I'm not gonna pay this $28,000 a year. And obviously if you're somebody rich like her, I don't blame you. I mean, why would you? Especially with a condo, you know, you're basically just looking at your interior being covered, and that's it. You know, some of your personal possessions in there, which can probably be replaced with that $28,000, and you can just self-insure. So if you think that rich people aren't feeling this crazy inflation right now, they are, because it's affecting them too in such a way that they're like, I'm not going to pay for this. And they have the luxury of doing that, of course, but not everybody does. Literally every week that I'm making these videos, guys, I just can't believe, you know, how much we're being lied to about all of these things. They're trying to continually convince everybody that things are going well, and they're going to do that until it's no longer possible, until it's so obvious that we are in this recession that there's nothing else they can do besides admit it. So get ready for that. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.